Reading now from the Gospel of Jesus Christ according to Matthew chapter 25. When the Son of Man comes as King, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his royal throne, and the people of all the nations will be gathered before him. Then he will divide them into two groups, just as shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the righteous people at his right and the others at his left. Then the king will say to the people on his right, "Come, you that are blessed by my Father. Come and possess the kingdom which has been prepared for you ever since the creation of the world. I was hungry, and you fed me. Thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you received me in your homes. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you took care of me. In prison, and you visited me." The righteous will then answer him, "When, Lord, did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? When did we ever see you a stranger and welcome you in our homes, or naked and clothe you? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you, whenever you did this for one of the least important of the followers of mine, you did it for me." This past June marked my 10th anniversary as an ordained minister within the United Church of Canada. 10 years ago, I officially took up the mantle of preaching Jesus' gospel good news. 10 years ago, June 3rd, I assumed a responsibility as a minister to testify to the love God has for all her children everywhere in the world. Ten years ago, I vowed within my own heart to preach love over judgment and unity over division. I vowed to do whatever I could to tear down the walls that separate people from one another. Walls that separate us from them, those on the inside from those on the outside. 10 years ago, June 3rd, I vowed to do what I could to lead people on a path toward God's love. And as I thought about what my message might be this morning, set within the context of that commitment, I was reminded of an interview I once saw on TV. CNN's Larry King, this goes a ways back now, had a guest host on this one particular night. And the host was Canada's comedian Martin Short, dressed as one of his characters, Jiminy Glick. So I'm dating myself now. I hope you remember some of this. Well, that night, Jiminy Glick interviewed half a dozen people, and one of them was Bill Maher. I'm hearing groans back here in the choir. Now, Bill Maher used to host the program Politically Incorrect. Did you ever see that program? Politically Incorrect. Until the network pulled the show after some unacceptable remarks he made following the 9/11 attacks in New York. At any rate, Jiminy Glick, having stuffed his face with donuts, said to Bill Maher in his whiny little voice, "Now, Bill, you don't believe in God, do you?" And to his surprise and mine, and I'm sure many others, Bill Maher answered, as a matter of fact, I do. And just to keep you in the loop, Bill Maher is somewhat of a noted atheist, or certainly at times. So this is quite shocking. You do? Was the incredulous response. Then why do you say all those nasty things you do about religion and religious people? It's this way, Bill said. I don't have any trouble with God, but I do have trouble with all those who presume to speak for him. It's amazing what you remember on the anniversary of your ordination. I think I know what Bill was referring to. We see it all the time. We hear it all the time. I certainly cannot comment on those who speak for other faiths, but I can comment, and I will, on those who speak for ours. Maybe Bill Maher was referring to the Jerry Falwells of this world, who, in presuming to speak for God, proclaim that AIDS is God's punishment for those engaged in homosexual or out-of-marriage relationships. Yet how does that answer those who get the HIV/AIDS virus from hepatitis? And how does that answer the sorrow of the millions of children in Africa who have lost parents and siblings, aunts, uncles, and grandparents to this dreaded disease? Maybe Bill was referring to the Pat Robertsons of this world, who, in presuming to speak for God and commenting on a school board's decision in a small community in Pennsylvania not to allow the teaching of intelligent design alongside the theory of evolution in the school's science classes, said that if a natural disaster hits that area, the community should not expect God to answer their prayers for help, because God won't. Thank you, Pat Robertson. Maybe Bill was referring to the Jimmy Swaggarts of this world, who, in presuming to speak for God and condemning those whose lives were full of sin, was caught, literally, with his pants down and fell flat on his face. Maybe Bill Maher was referring to those who, in presuming to speak for God, tell us that poverty and sickness and trouble are the result of sin in our lives. That they come to live with us because the devil is the author of them. And if we'll just get right with God, miracles will burst into our lives from the storehouses of God's mercy. And we'll find wealth. And our health will return. And our troubles will become a memory. Get this little vial of miracle spring water. Get this little green prayer cloth. Have just enough faith in God for your miracle, and the miracle will come. But for too many wonderful people of faith, the miracle does not come. Maybe Bill Maher was referring to the many who, in presuming to speak for God, are so absolutely sure, it seems, about absolutely everything that they leave little room for other people's uncertainty or for different understandings. So little room, it seems, that they forget the wise words of Alfred Lord Tennyson, who wrote, "There is more faith, believe me, in honest doubt than there is in half the creeds." So little room, it seems, that they forget the wise words written by Henry Haskins, that we should treat the other person's faith gently, because it's all he or she has to believe in. When some people presume to speak for God, it seems to me that there's too much judgment and too little grace. Too much self-righteousness and too little righteousness. No two human beings are the same. We all know that. Only some, I think, need reminding. In my view, we're all on a journey. And our journeys take us down different roads, each with its own twists and turns. Our journeys are filled with joy and sorrow, wonder and disappointment, questions and answers, faith and doubt. Tick-tock, tick-tock. So, when this preacher speaks for God, knowing that somebody is listening, what can he say that will, in the end, open the way for people to draw nearer to the heart of God? That will, in the end, help us all on our journey and give our lives meaning. If it's true that we're all looking for life that has meaning, then where's the meaning to be found? And this is what I believe. This is where you'll find it. In a life that finds its fullness in God. In a life that discovers in every moment and every place and every circumstance God's presence and God's grace. I believe that meaning is found in the heart of God. And just as Jesus revealed that heart. Does that make sense? In the heart of God that assures us that we are loved. Every single one of us. Loved beyond measure. Loved for ourselves. Loved no matter what. Loved wherever our journey takes us. To know that we are loved by God is where we'll find meaning. Think about that. And there's a second place where meaning is found. In giving our life to something that will outlast our life. In giving ourselves in response to God's love for us, in loving service to others. To find faith in the God who loves us. And then following in faith wherever God is going to lead us. That is what gives life meaning. And usually, love leads us to a life given in service to others. I believe. And I believe also that Jesus' invitation to follow him on his way, always leads us on that kind of journey. So to sum up, it isn't about prosperity and power and health and miracles. It's about the meaning found in being loved and in loving others. And here is a great truth that I know. All the faith proclaimed means nothing if we don't become like Jesus, non-judgmental and loving. All the faith proclaimed pales in the face of a loving faith lived out. All the love professed means nothing if we don't act like Jesus, non-judgmental, respectful, and inviting. All the love professed pales in the face of love and understanding given life in our own lives. So for me, that's what it means to live with Christ's Spirit reigning in our hearts on this Reign of Christ Sunday. That's what it means to me. It means giving ourselves to a cause or a purpose outside of ourselves. And that is where life's true meaning is found. Living with Christ's Spirit reigning in our hearts means giving ourselves in love to the lives of others, in the name of the one who gives life meaning to our own lives. Living with Christ's Spirit reigning in our hearts means breaking down walls and building bridges. Sorry, Donald. It means living with more questions than answers. More queries than certitudes. More understanding, perhaps, than judgment. Maybe more gift than hurt. More joy than fear. More people inside our circle of love than out. That's what it means to me, to live with Christ's Spirit reigning in our hearts. That's what it means to live a meaningful life, to me. It's what it means to have our spirits lifted and filled with the Spirit that is Christ. That's just my belief. I don't expect it to be yours, although I do hope it is. And that's why I will say, Amen.